Welcome to the Passion Professors Podcast, hosted by Earth.University, where stories of life experiences and purpose inspire and unite humanity. Here's your host, Lindsay Andreotti.
So, hey, everybody. It's Lindsay Andreotti with the Passion Professors Podcast, and I am so excited. You have no idea how cool this is that I get to interview today the illustrious Miss Cathy Hawk. Hi, Cathy.
Hi, Linz.
I want to tell everybody about you before we dive into all the questions that I usually bring to the table. So Cathy has been in my life for 25 years. We just figured it out because my daughter just turned 25 recently. And she is an amazing healer, leader, energy coach, a person who you just want to have in your life no matter what. I want to tell you guys a little bit about her. She has been coaching thousands of thought leaders and entrepreneurs to turn human energy into peak performance. She's created the Get Clarity operating system, which is a totally cool and innovative method to integrate your mind, body, and spirit for your life and your business. And she is just this incredible transformation queen who is the director of Clarity International, a coaching and leadership training firm based out of Washington State now. And she and her partner, Gary, are authors of 3 award-winning books, Get Clarity, The Lights On Guide to Manifestation and Success in Life and Work, and Shift, a guide to above the line, positive thinking, and then last but not least, powerful partnering with co-author Theresa Byrne. So Cathy, I just can't even say enough about you. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here today.
Thank you, Lindsay. Wow, it's good to be here. Good to see you as a podcaster. Yay.
Woohoo! Yeah, I get to interview people, which I've always said I'm lights on about.
Yes, I love this.
Exactly. Well, today, Cathy, you're one of those people that I know has been living your entire life in your passion. And I know that you've had bumps along the way because we all do. That's part of the process. But I would love for you to tell the audience maybe first how you found your passion was this human energy field and how we can maximize it for peak performance.
Well, wow, this will be fun. Well, first of all, my background, when I went to college, so I'm 75 now. And I know, it's amazing.
Time just flies by. You don't look it.
I don't feel it. Well, I think it's the new healthy aging. It's going to be hard to tell what decade we're in because when we live lights on, and that's what we'll talk about, that your actual physical and mental energy revives itself. And that is what I feel has happened for me. But when I went to college, I wanted to be a dentist. And now you've got to roll back like a long time ago.
The way back machine is.
They did not let women in dental school. And it was before the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So I thought, well, I'll stay in dentistry. So I did. I studied dental hygiene and had a career in that ended up having me be appointed to the first peer board in the United States, where we as professionals like nurses and hygienists, were going to be peer board reviewed instead of reviewed by a paternalistic system or the doctors. So it was so interesting that my career ended up being more about systems and actually being radical about that women were all grown up and could take really good care of themselves and did not need to be patted on the back by the docs. Now, the docs are great guys. That's not it. It was just a time for autonomy for women.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it started. And then I did that for 28 years and I loved it. And most of it was system work in that. But it gave me a really deep knowledge of the human body. And you'll see how that plays in later when I went for my second career.
There you go. And what I love is what you just said. So anybody who's listening, she worked for 28 years as a dental hygienist and in the dental field. And then said, I'm going to do Cathy 2.0, and discovered something in that later part of your life. How old were you then? Roughly?
Let's see.
Early 40s?
Mid 40s.
Yep. So that's about when I met you, was around that time. And Cathy was shifting into this whole new world. And I love that. And I want to talk about that a little bit later, because living in your passion doesn't mean you do the same thing over and over for 100 years. And so, because I think people think there's only one. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So here you are in your mid 40s. You've discovered this new opportunity of, I know a bunch of stuff about the human body and systems. What else do I like about this? So tell the audience what you did then.
Well, one thing that I noticed, because my specialty was in periodontics, which in dentistry is the soft tissue, it's not teeth, it's not cavities. Okay. And so in order for people to have health that way, they had to learn how to heal themselves. And so what I realized was, in my 28-year career, I had learned a lot about human healing. And what I had observed was that people who had a different mental attitude about their bodies and the choices that they made, they healed way better than people that didn't. So when I was wanting to retire, I thought, what makes people passionate? What makes people, want to have the best possible life for themselves and to live passionately? So again, roll back about 30 years. And I thought, and so I went on a sabbatical and actually retired from that career. And so I went to pursue what it was how can you see passion? That was an odd question. Let me put it like that. 30 years ago, there weren't a lot of people asking that question. And so I studied a lot with human energy. I was always interested. That is what essentially created people's ability to heal themselves. Right? But that's what I did take from career number one, was that it was something in their mindset that made the difference between people that healed and people they didn't. And it was their passion. And so I started to study that human energetic factor. And there were lots of things going into it. And coaching hadn't even started as a profession quite then. Now, very quickly after it was. And then I decided, wow, if I've kind of been coaching people for 28 years on how to get healthy, why don't I transfer it over to how to be passionate? And that's how the wisdom and the learning that I took from career number one gave me clues and transferred into career number two.
I love it. I just think it's so great. And it's so true. Is there, just a curiosity, is there anything you remember from your childhood? And I know your dad was an inventor and you had a lot of creative people around you. Can you see anything in the way, way, way back machine when you were young that pointed to some of this too?
Absolutely. My dad being an inventor and my mom a teacher. So as you'll see as we go forward, I invented an actual operating system for seeing people's passion. And we'll talk about that and how people can find it. And then I've turned out teaching it. So from my past, my parents always said, my dad was an engineer. I mean, that was his basic degree. And he always said, honey, you can make anything you want. Everything is possible if you know what you want. You don't go to the how-to before the what. And that's actually the beginning of the operating system for clarity, was helping people understand what they wanted. And then, because of my knowledge of the human body, I watched them light up. So I saw when their ideas matched with their body. And I knew enough, from the anatomy and physiology of my first career, that was a serotonin release. And that I knew that is what was making people brilliantly shine. and or be lights on. And so that's how those little pieces came together. But my deep belief, and still is, that everything is possible if we know what it is we want, and it's driven by our passion.
Absolutely. Cathy is definitely a possibilitarian. Yes.
I mean, there I was coaching. I studied with a group in Texas. They were still calling themselves consultants at the time because the Coach ICF and Thomas Leonard days had just started, and when I started realizing that I wanted to be a coach, then, and again, it was so new that, I mean, there weren't any tools.
Right.
So, and I'm like, wait, hold on, my dad is a tool inventor. All I have to do is figure out what we need, and then when I figured out that when I was starting coaching and I watched people's physiology change, or what I call what lit them up, which is a great way to describe that.
Yeah.
I realized that that it wouldn't do them any good if I knew what lit them up, or the traditional more coach or I would say that was more the old model.
Right.
That they needed to be empowered themselves. And that's when I developed a feedback system, which is when I met you, Lindsay, and I was developing how to make that scientifically correct so that I would film people before their interview. And it's a body-based interview. It's Eastern chakra-based, so it goes through the human body, and how to then film after the interview and make them be exactly the same, so that the changes that people were able to see, they knew that they owned. They were internal changes. They weren't external, like I changed the lighting or something like that.
And I think the really important thing to share here with an audience who can't really see this, if you're just listening to it on, your podcast, if you're just listening, here's what that really looks like. If you can imagine a picture of yourself when you got off work one day on a Friday afternoon, and you can imagine that photograph, and then you've just been asked a whole bunch of questions about your passion and the thing that lights you up from within, and then someone snaps a picture in the same exact location, same exact lighting. Maybe it's an hour later, but everything's the same. And you can look at yourself and go, whoa, I was nearly dead when I started that interview. And look what happens when I talk about what I'm passionate about. And I think the magic that Cathy and Clarity bring is there are ways that you can see your own magic, your own light from the stories that you tell and the passion that you share. So I want to hear a little bit more, and I want you to tell people, what are some of the common things you see when people have, if you will, taken on the Clarity operating system and who are living a life of passion and lights on?
Well, I would say the first step is that I have a deep belief in the human spirit. And I know that every single person has encoded in them, embedded in their spirit and their mind, body, spirit, and their physiology, what I would call a secret dream. And what I discovered in Clarity was that when I interviewed people from the field of all possibilities and got them reconnected with their inner light, what I knew was that every single person has, I really think of it in many ways, Linz, and you know this, like it's our unique destiny is encoded in our physiology. Mm-hmm. So I know that everybody has that. And so I would say the first thing I learned in coaching was how hard it was in the beginning for people to say out loud, what how to come out of their mouth, what it was that, because every time they tried it, for most people, they tried to talk about their passion or a great idea or something they wanted when they were younger, but other people knocked their lights out. Yes. So they got away from doing that. It was almost, I wouldn't say fear, but I think fear was part of it. Because I would always ask, if you could do anything you wanted, what would that be? And people would be like, well, I want some this, kind of. And then when I said, well, tell me more about that, and we explored those factors, it would come back to them. It was like a deep cellular remembrance of their passion.
Yeah. And I'll tell you that moment for most people, when they have that connection to it, the alignment of the head and heart, as we call it, that moment is nothing short of glorious internally for the person who is feeling it. It's fun for us coaches to witness it, for sure. There's no doubt about it. But there is something truly amazing when you can feel it. And that feeling is the thing that you're all about in your coaching, and how you work with others in getting them to a place where they can feel empowered to know that feeling themselves. So they don't need someone else all the time. They can feel it for what they are. And
it's like I think of it as your inner GPS system.
Right.
So,
and we all have it.
It's your guidance system. And just like when you're using a GPS in your vehicle, you say to yourself, where am I? And that's where clarity coaching always starts. And then it says, where do you want to go? Well, the mystery in coaching for people is they aren't sure where they want to go. And the secret sauce with clarity is we find it out, like what lights them up and head in that direction. And that once you get your inner GPS tuned back up again, and all the negatives are removed from it, then it becomes actually in the body. It's cellular learning is actually the way that it is. But cellular learning isn't quite as fun as saying that you tuned up your inner GPS. That.
I know it does sound good in both ways, though. I mean, just a sidebar, but it's related. Oddly enough, I've recently done a deep dive in the microbiology of my cells. So what's going on at the intracell level, and which micronutrients are in and which ones are not staying in, and all that good stuff. Well, one of the things that I spoke to my doctor about was, I said, we're really just like plants. And she started laughing. And I said, yeah, plants turn colors and don't look as well if they don't get the micronutrients they need for what they're living in. And they also need light and water. And guess what? So do we. And I noticed that when working with people and providing a bit of this homeopathic dose of light, it changes their health and well-being in a nanosecond. Like, bam, they're just in a whole different world. So I just had to mention that, because we are like plants. And
Lindsay, I'm a master gardener. And so that was also another passion that played into my choices. Yeah. But as a coach, what I know, and there's a book that I read once in gardening called Right Plant, Wrong Place. And I thought that totally sums up for me everything behind sourcing your own passion. Because you can have the best plant in the world, and like you said, if it's in the wrong place where it doesn't get the right nutrients, it's just not going to thrive. And there's nothing wrong with the plant. Yeah. So it's getting all of us in our right place. And the Buddhists call it Dharma. And that we, English speakers call it purpose. And living your life on purpose is getting you as the right plant in the right place.
Absolutely.
Done by light, done by inner light. And it's noticeable. You can pick it up on film easily when you know what you're looking for. And that was the key and remains the key distinguishing factor in the clarity method, is our ability to show people their own inner light. So they then get the feeling, and they know that, they learn it cellularly, like a homeopathic dose of light, and off they go and are able to guide themselves. And that is, in essence, what we all want. We all want our own ability to source our own light. And
exactly. So we love, both of us are total passionate around leaders and entrepreneurs and people that are innovating and creating new things, and parents too, people that are leading the way. If somebody wanted to approach clarity, where would you suggest they start? Is it a book? Is it a class? What would you say?
Well, I would say the book, the Get Clarity,
Okay.
the foundational book, because in it was, so as I was developing the lights on method, I kept seeing a river in my head. You know how musicians say that they heard a song in their head?
Yes, certainly.
I saw a river, and I drew it out, and it took a while. But it's a visual metaphor for flow, and it is so powerful to have a map that we can all follow to find our dream. And that map, because I was passionate about it, when we printed the book, I got the publishing company to put the map in the back so it folds out, and I got the book exactly how I wanted it, and it lights me up, and I love that book, and people love that book.
Yeah,
so I would say start with that,
okay.
And you can get it, on our website, getclarity.com.
Perfect.
And that's the best place, I think, to start.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, and I can definitely, from personal experience, share that all of the books are exceptional. And Cathy does have a course that's going to show up here at Earth.University very shortly that we're inviting all of you to please come and join and take a look, because it's a game changer. Do you want to tell them a little bit about that course?
Yes, it's called the Get Clarity Code, because what I want people to do in the class is learn their inner code that makes them work. They're how to tune their own GPS system. And it is got all the workbooks, everything that you need with it. But the key factor is going to let you understand how to source up your own lights on, how to hold it with positive thought. And there's a whole system. That's the second system in the operating, and that's in the course, in the code. And the third part is how to ride that river, how to be in flow your whole life and sustain it with all the different twists and turns. When you look at the river map, as you can imagine, like most rivers, it is not a straight line. No. Life is not a straight line, right? Life has twists and turns and eddies that you get stuck in, and fast parts and slow parts, and that's why I think the river, understanding your own lights on flow is
so powerful. So powerful. And it's been such a gift in my own life experience. And, I've been a clarity coach for what feels like 25 years now. So, we were kicking things around in the very early days. I remember that. And it's been a blessing. And I wanted everyone to hear your passion, because I think, sometimes finding your passion is the hardest part. It's taking that courageous step to be the next version of yourself, even when everyone else would say, why would you give up that career to go do that thing? That's the part. That's when it is your code. It is what you are, not what you think you should be. So I so appreciate you. And I have one last question. If you could have anything you wanted right now, what would it be?
I would be able to close my eyes and imagine in my mind the Earth, the globe that we see it, and I would see points of light everywhere from all the small engines, our own human engines, all over the place, living lights on and changing the balance of Earth.
Yay.
Energy on Earth. Yeah.
I'm in. We're all little beacons of light. So if you've listened to this podcast, get more at getclarity.com for sure. And if you're still struggling to find your passion, getclarity.com. It's really helpful. And check out the course that Cathy has offered at Earth.University. It's really powerful, the Clarity Code. And with that, Cathy, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. And I know we're going to do this again. So this is just the first of many.
Well, thank you. And to everybody listening, thank you for taking the time out of your life to explore Lindsay's Passion Professors. Wow, this is going to be a great place for you to hang out and study. So.
Definitely. Oh, thank you, Cathy. And I wish you all the best. And for those of you who are listening right now, just remember, you are a passion professor. Please get in touch with us at any point in time. You know where to find us. Hello@Earth.University. And we want to hear all about your passion and share it with others in our Hall of Wisdom we are creating. It's going to be really fun. So thank you again, Cathy.
Well,
that's all for now, everybody. Please like and subscribe. We'll talk later.